Welcome to the Empower Her Wellness Podcast. I'm Morgan, and I'm thrilled to be your host and wellness coach as we navigate the path to a healthier, more confident you. As the owner of Get Fit With Me, I bring years of experience in personal training, nutrition, and coaching to each episode. Join me as we explore practical tips and strategies for fitness, nutrition, mindset, and more, all tailored for busy women just like you. Let's empower your wellness journey and achieve lasting transformation together. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Empower Her Wellness Podcast. I'm Morgan Ukovich, your host and coach, and I'm excited for today's episode. The name of today's episode and what we're going to be talking about is cutting through the noise and where to start making changes to your nutrition before you do anything else. And part of the reason that we are doing today's episode is there is so much out there telling you what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, where you should be starting, what fads you should be following, what you should be cutting out, what you should be eating an excessive amount of, all of those things. When it comes to nutrition, there is so much out there. And I want to just cut through it, and I want to tell you what I 100% truly believe is the first and number one spot you should start. No matter what diet you follow, no matter what fad you go on, no matter what you want to do in the long run, there is one thing you should be doing up front from the start, no matter what. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter, only because I just want you to know the starting place. We're not going to talk through the whole thing. We're just going to start at the starting place. So when we talk about food and nutrition, I have tried it all. I've tried all the diets, and what I noticed in the long run was I didn't have anything to compare it to. I would do something for a while and I wouldn't see the success that I wanted in that short amount of time. So I'd fall off and I'd start something new. Fall off and I'd start something new. Fall off and I'd start something new. We've all done it. We've all been on that roller coaster. We've all been on and off that hamster wheel. But one of the things that I noticed is the reason I couldn't track or see any progress is I wasn't tracking where I started from. Because I had this idea when I started the diet or the nutritional journey that I was on, I knew where I was, but I didn't track it. I didn't write it down. I didn't actually analyze it. I just started, and then I didn't have anything to compare it to when I started to feel unsuccessful. So the number one thing that you should be doing before you make any changes to your lifestyle, and this, we're going to talk more specifically on nutrition today, but this goes for all areas, is you need to do a baseline. Some sort of audit, some sort of log. You need to have baseline data. Reason being is we do not record and track what our baseline looks like. How will we ever know if we are improving, if there are changes, if we are doing things differently than we were before? So when it comes to nutrition, the number one thing you need to be doing before you jump into anybody's nutrition plan, whether it's mine or another coach's or something you see on the internet, is you need to do at least a 1-week food log. And during that food log, you need to be 100% honest with yourself of what you ate, when, and the quantity. And depending on what life looks like, you can do this really basic. You can grab a notebook. You can write down June 25th, breakfast, and write down what you had. 2 eggs, toast, cream cheese. You can keep it very basic. You are going to see differences even in the basic version, all the way up to using an app like MyFitnessPal or Fitbit, or there's a ton out there these days. But the goal is to be as accurate as possible and to not change the way you are eating. Don't change anything. It's the thing that frustrates me the most is when you know somebody's going to be looking at your food log or you have to write it down, we change the way we would typically act. And that is one of the things that it does, is it makes us become more aware, which is what I want. But I also, food logging for a lifetime is not sustainable. So I don't want you to start making changes when you're only food logging. No, I want you to be able to learn how to make changes whether somebody is watching and reading or not. And that includes yourself. So when you do your food log, it needs to be at least a week long. Reason being is we need some weekend data and we need some weekday data. I don't recommend doing it when you're on vacation because that's not what normal life looks like. But if you know you travel a lot and you also know you're home, you're like 50-50, I would recommend 2 weeks. And ideally, those weeks are back to back. You've got a week of traveling and then you've got a week of being at home in your normal routine. What this is going to show you is what do you consume and how do things change based on what you are doing. And we may know in our head of, oh, I'm doing the right things, I still do it. But until you visually see it, we don't really know. And our brain holds so much other information throughout the day that we are not going to remember how we were eating 6 months after we've made a change. We're not going to remember. So, number one thing, create a food log. One of the awesome parts is I will do a food log audit for you. And you can audit yourself or you can have somebody else, such as myself, audit you. And the nice part about having an outside perspective, specifically somebody who is an expert in the area, is they're going to see things that you don't see. When I do food log audits, I have you audit yourself first so that I have a good understanding of what do you know about nutrition? What are you seeing? And you may really, an example here, you may say, oh, I have ice cream every single night for dinner. That's really good. And that to me shows me, oh, okay, I need to understand why she thinks that that is the best choice for dinner. Like it allows me to know you and understand you a little bit better. So I always have you audit yourself first, and then I do a video audit or we jump on the phone and we talk through it. So there's multiple different ways we can do that. If you do ever want to do a food log audit, log your food for a week, send me either screenshots or add me as a friend on MyFitnessPal, and let's do an audit. I'm more than happy to do one for you because if we don't know where we're starting and we don't have a baseline, we have nothing to compare it to and see if we are making progress. So some of the ways that you can audit yourself, and this is a really good, remember, food logging is a tool. And being able to food log is a really great skill to have when you feel like, I feel like I'm falling into some of my older habits. Okay, let's food log it. Actually, is it actually happening or is it something I'm making up in my head? Sometimes it's actually happening. I've been back on food logging because it's summer and we've been out and about. And I feel like I just need a little extra support, a little extra dial in. So I've been food logging again. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it for a lifetime. And I actually have given myself an action or a goal each day of track most foods because I know it's not realistic for me to track every single thing, especially when we're out at a restaurant. Like, I'm not going to get caught up in making sure I've tracked it 100%, but I'm going to track as much as I can, and I'm not going to beat myself up for it. When you are doing a food log, for the purposes of auditing it and for the purposes of baselining, I need you to write everything. I need you not to miss anything. That's your alcohol, that's your Big B drinks, that's your food, that's your candy, that's those late night snacks, that's those handfuls of random candy in the jar when you walk through the office. That is all of that. Because it's those little things, that's your condiments. It's those little things that we don't think matter that actually matter and add up in the long run. So when it comes to food auditing yourself, the thing that you want to remember is it's a food audit. There's nothing wrong and nothing bad about this. It is just how you are going through life right now in your nutrition. It's okay. There's no judgment. There's no shaming. There's no, oh, I need to be doing better. There's no none of that. This is how I'm eating. Wow, these are some really big insights that I saw. So one of the questions that I like to ask yourself is, what do you think you did really well at this past week? Like, was there a food group? Was there a meal that you did really good about getting in? So for instance, did you do really good about your protein? Did you get your servings of vegetables and fruits? Did you make sure you had breakfast every morning? So what did you do really good? And you can have multiple things written down for this. First, you want to acknowledge what you did really good at. After you've acknowledged what you did really good at, I want you then to look at, okay, where do you think you could have some room for improvement? Is there any areas that you are missing? So room for improvement and areas are missing kind of go hand in hand. For instance, if you notice you don't eat any vegetables, that's room for improvement, and that's also something you are missing in your diet. So that's going to be one of our top starting points when we want to go make changes. Or maybe you notice that you skip breakfast. during the week, but on the weekend you eat breakfast. Okay, well, let's dive into why. Why do we skip breakfast during the week? Well, we skip breakfast during the week because life is crazy and I have not prepared and prepped like I want to be successful. Okay, that right there helps me understand what is missing and what needs to happen so we can be successful. The other thing that I want you to ask yourself, so after you've said what you've done really well, what you feel like you could improve on / areas that you are missing, is what do you believe the next best step is now that you've seen your food log and you've seen your audit? So typically, this is where I will give 2 options. The reason I give 2 options is one is going to feel a little bit easier to the person, and the other one's going to feel a little bit more challenging. And knowing that, I let them choose because there's no right or wrong. You need to make a change and you need to choose. So I always give 2 options. So giving yourself 2 options as well. And that's where having an outside perspective comes into play. It makes it a little bit easier to have that to be able to look at it from an outsider's perspective without judgment, without anything, because we are our own worst critic. If you listen to last week's episode, we are our own worst critic. But if we have somebody else coming out here and helping us see things, helping us take those blinders off, we become more aware and it's less judgmental because we've asked for the help. And it's sometimes nicer when somebody else tells us of like, okay, so you did really good at this and this and this. And we love to be praised by other people. And then it also doesn't come as bad when somebody says, well, so you did good at these things, but I am seeing that you are missing getting any vegetables in. What type of vegetables do you like? We talk through it. Oh, okay, well, can we come up with a plan to implement those vegetables into that? So you can have this whole dialogue with yourself. It's typically something that I encourage clients to do when we are not working together or when you feel like you need a reset and we've already done a few food logs. But it is something that is really awesome. I do this with my clients on a weekly basis for the ones that do track a little bit more consistently because they want to. So once you've decided what that next action step is, you need to create that plan. So that plan is, okay, I am going to focus on making sure I eat breakfast every morning. And I want that breakfast to look like a palm-sized serving of protein, carbohydrate that's going to give me energy, and a little bit of fat that's going to keep me full. Okay, great. Well, to make that happen, what we know hasn't been working is planning foods in advance. So can we come up with quick and easy recipes that we can make in the morning? Or do we need to grab something else that is pre-made that we can just pop in a microwave? Like talking through the full action plan so that you can be successful. Because what tends to happen with this next baseline is we create this log. We've got this baseline of how we've ate. We go through this audit, but we don't come up with the action steps that we're like, okay, great. Now I'm going to jump in and do whatever I want, which is fine. You can do that. But it's really hard to be successful in that way. You want to make sure you've got your action steps, that step-by-step plan. It's going to tell you what to do next. Okay, after I've conquered breakfast, what's the next thing we're going to move on to? So the other thing that I like to have people do at the end of the audits is the last question that I have them ask is, how are you feeling? Physically, mentally, gut-wise, all of the things that come into play that honestly are nutrition effects. And a lot of times people I'm bloated, I have lots of cravings, I'm not very energized, things like that. And I can see that in that log. And the goal of the log is for you to start to see what you're missing out of your diet, not to start taking things out of your diet. For instance, if you see you're having ice cream every night, okay, I'm not telling you to cut out ice cream. Don't cut it out because there's something in it that you enjoy. But maybe I'm saying, can we increase our dinner a little bit? Can we increase the amount of protein we have at dinner, for instance, so we feel a little bit more full, so when we have that ice cream, we have a smaller portion? Can we make sure we're eating more earlier in the day so we don't have that craving at the end of the day? It can look a variety of ways, but the last thing that I want you to do is after this audit to start cutting out all the things that you think you need to cut out. Because for you to be able to live the life you want and to feel the best possible way, You need to be able to eat what you want in a way that your body enjoys, in a portion that makes you feel full and satisfied. And a lot of times those sweets or those unhealthy foods, as people say, I don't like unhealthy, I don't like the word bad, because food is food. And honestly, a food that may not make us feel the most energized makes us feel really good emotionally, and that's okay. So it makes us feel good in a different way. I want you to be able to have a balance of all of this throughout your day. And as you start to fuel your body more properly with fruits and vegetables and proteins and carbohydrates and balanced meals throughout the day, you are going to end up craving some of those things a little bit less. And it's just going to naturally happen. So with that, if you take one thing away from today, before you go ahead and change the way you are eating, you are changing your diet in any way possible, make sure that you do a food log, you audit yourself, and you create a baseline and you store that. Don't lose that. And if you're like, crap, I haven't done that, and I'm like X amount of weeks into this new program, audit yourself now. Create your baseline from now. That's okay. Because sometimes we don't remember to do it in the beginning. Do it now. Create your baseline, record it, keep it, take pictures of it wherever you want to store it, just so you have it. Because there are going to be days where you feel like you're not making progress. There's going to be days that you feel like nothing has changed. I don't eat any differently. I don't feel any better. But if we look back at your audit, those questions you answered, and you look back at your logs of what your day-to-day meals look like, you will see a difference. You will see a difference no matter what diet you follow. So with that, we're going to jump off for today. In today's episode, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about the importance, the audit questions. If you would like a food log audit, all you've got to do is go to the show notes, send me a Facebook message or an email, say, Morgan, I'd like a food log audit. And from there, a week later, you can send me your audit. But if you've emailed me, I'll reach back out to you a week later and I'll say, hey, it's been a week. You want to send me your audit now? And I'll look over it, or your log, and then I will audit it. It's completely free. I want you to have support and be able to get guidance on where you think you should be starting next, because it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming to get started making a change. And having somebody give you a this or that to get started with an action plan is sometimes the best possible way to just take that next step forward. So remember, check those show notes and shoot me a message if you would like to do a food log audit with me. It's really important that you create that baseline here in your nutrition before you go and start making any changes. So with that, I will see you the next Thursday for another new episode. Talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to the Empower Her Wellness Podcast. I hope you feel more empowered and ready to tackle your wellness goals. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, feel free to send me a message. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review to help us reach more women just like you. Until next time, take control of your wellness and keep empowering yourself every day.